So how come everyone in the industry says flower and not weed? Like, how come no one uses, no one who legally...
Good question. I think it's just like...
is it a stigma? Is it a cultural
yeah,
stigma?
exactly. Like,
or
nobody
is it
calls it marijuana anymore. They've changed the cannabis.
Yeah, no, it's just a stigma.
When it first came out with the first 25 licenses, people were making millions, right? I remember someone saying, oh, we were doing $100,000 a day. Everybody saw that, and everybody jumped in, and then the Ontario regulation said, oh, we're going to just open up to everybody. We went from 25 locations to 1,500 locations in freaking Ontario. It was great in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it turned pretty bad. That a lot of dispensaries have shut down. It's still a struggling business for a lot of people. It's like if you overprice by $1 or $2, the velocity of the sale decreases
significantly. And if your product isn't consistent, then you can basically forget that your brand's going to survive more than 6-7 months.
Founded in 2017, Startwell is Toronto's independent hub for innovators to collaborate. Our podcasts relate perspectives from the world's most diverse urban population to reflect unique insights into global business, media, and culture. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Startwell Podcast. I'm excited for this session because it's been a while since I talked to anyone about cannabis here on the Startwell Podcast. Right. Last time, I think it was Jay Rosenthal who was running a publication called The Business of Cannabis, which then got sold, and he moved on to other things. Yeah. And I haven't really surveyed, and I don't think our audience has really seen a survey of kind of the industry in a while. So I'm really excited to firstly jump in with an introduction. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, because I know off mic right now we were talking about the myriad ways that you found yourself into this industry. Yeah. So
you want to start or you want me to start?
I can go. Yeah. So this is Rahul. I started in a regulated space in 2014. That was with NHP Consulting. We did pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, medical devices. And then, boom, Health Canada drops it at the end of 2013 that, hey, cannabis is going to be legal. Mm-hmm. So we had few companies, Aurora, Terry Booth initially reached out, Canopy guys reached out, hey, can you help us? Because we work with Health Canada on other regulated spaces, right? Mm-hmm. So it was an easier transition for us from consulting perspective, go from pharmaceutical cosmetics into cannabis. We, however, did not think industry was real, and we didn't take on any of these clients. We legit missed the bus on the first 14 licenses that came into the industry. When they came, we thought they're going to get shut down. Like, there's no freaking way a G7 country is going to, see this
actually
through.
Legalize.
Exactly. So
recreationally legalize.
Well, recreational wasn't even a question back then. It was just strictly medical. We were just coming out of those, individual growers growing in their backyard into a bigger space for the proper patients. We had about 400-some thousand patients back then. Mm-hmm. Now the numbers have dropped on the medical side. But once we got into the cannabis, it sort of took off. We saw, every random person that ever smoked it or thought about it, like, you know what, this is a golden chance, a green gold, right? Mm-hmm. They're putting their homes on mortgages, they're, remortgaging or selling it, trying to get a license. Nobody had an idea that it's going to take 3-4 years to get a license, and you have to keep paying your operational expenses while you're doing it. So it was interesting initially, but, when we got into the game, it got so big for us within 6 months. We had to create a brand new company called Cannabis Compliance Inc. That was the biggest and the first full service cannabis consulting firm in the world. We had clients all over. We opened up Australia market first. We did licensing in Colombia. We had Lesotho. We had German tenders. Like, we were everywhere cannabis related. And that company was bought out by Deloitte, so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, it was a great business. Initially, idea was to be in a hammer and the chisel game, right? You don't want to be a gold miner.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been 10 years now, man. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Feels like haven't learned shit.
Still learning every day.
Still learning
right?
every day. Yeah. This industry is amazing for that.
Well, I'm excited for you to share some knowledge, drop some knowledge from this experience of the last decade in this industry. So, Mike.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
So I was in advertising sales for more than that. I was with Pattison Outdoor for 12 years at the time. I had been with Zoom Media a couple years before that. And the pandemic hit, and out of home advertising went to shit pretty much, right?
No one was driving on the highway to see
nobody was out
billboards.
anymore. And so, 6 months into it, I got packaged out for my company. And I decided, hey, you know what? It's time to get out of Canada for a little bit. So I went to Costa Rica for 5 months.
Oh, yeah,
And while
I
I was
remember that.
Yeah, and while I was down there, myself and Rahul had hooked up. I decided to get into brokering a little bit of cannabis. And so, we were chatting, doing deals together, and an opportunity came up where I was looking to get a license and to be able to do better broker deals. And an opportunity came up that a company in Mississauga that had a processing facility was looking for investors to come in. So we decided, hey, you know what? Why not? Let's give it a shot. So we bought a company called Green Gold in Mississauga, and we picked up a couple really good clients right off the bat. We picked up
Ghost drops, cookies,
seven leaf.
yeah.
And
So these are all, sorry, the function of this facility was processing. So that means you buy from the grower, and then you productize.
Right. We just
cannabis.
turn it into either flower packaging or pre-rolls. That was really what we were doing. We were packaging 3.5 gram flower bags, and we were doing thousands of pre-rolls.
I got to pause you there. So how come everyone in the industry says flower and not weed? Like, how come no one uses, no one who legally...
Good question. I think it's just like...
is it a Is it a cultural stigma?
Exactly.
Or is it
nobody
illegal?
calls it marijuana anymore.
It's-
They've changed it to cannabis.
Yeah, no, it's just a stigma. They're trying to destigmatize, like UFOs. Nobody wants to say UFOs. They're trying to say UAPs now. It doesn't sound as bad.
I heard that at Congress hearing, and it was like, what the hell's going
same
on?
thing with weed, man. Nobody wants to say dope,
Rebrand.
weed,
Right.
it's rebranding.
So
That's
yeah.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
I'll say weed forever. Forgive me if I drop that word in this conversation.
And so we were in Green Gold for about 2 years, and it was crazy because we had never had an operations background. We went from...
Were you guys out there in Mississauga at the factory?
Yeah, we were literally like the first couple of days, we were doing the actual pre-roll.
You guys had hairnets
like,
on,
we were
wearing
out
lab
there, full
coats.
lab coats on. And at one point, we had probably 15 to 17 full-time employees. And then we had a temp agency that we would bring in as needed, another 15 employees. And we were putting out a ton of product.
Damn.
A good quality product. I think that was the key part for us that we learned. Not everybody has same standards in the industry. So every company that you work with will have a different standard.
Sure.
We just got lucky in a sense or unlucky in a sense. Our clients were following military standards. They're the highest standards for manufacturing anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to learn really fast how to produce at the highest level.
How does regulation work for this kind of thing? Was there a dude that came around on Friday to let everyone pee in a cup?
No, you could smoke as much cannabis as you wanted, but
'Cause
if
it's
we,
legal, yeah.
unfortunately, people that typically are smoking weed while they work are not that efficient, and so we had numbers that we had to hit on a regular basis, and if we weren't doing that, we weren't able to hit the market to actually get product into the actual dispensaries, and you would lose your clients that way.
Right.
So we had to be on top of things.
Manufacturing KPI is very, very important, right? There were 3 rooms always filled, different projects, different strains, different clients, work being done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting, man.
Yeah.
That was a learning curve to the max.
So let's talk about the product line that you guys were that you inherited when you
So-
took it over, and then how things changed while you were there.
Well, product line that we inherited, we didn't really inherit any
Like,
product.
was it functional? When
It
you
was
bought
it was zero sales. There was nothing going on. The guy had a
like a
different
warehouse.
business model. He had the lab set up that we could do a number of different things. And we decided, Rahul and our other business partner, John, had been in the space for a while. They saw where the actual opportunities were. Co-packing was a good opportunity.
Yeah.
What's that?
So-
Sorry?
Co-packing. So we were like white labeling in a sense for other clients, and they were using our license to be able to produce excise and then ship it to OCS or any
Other
other
markets.
province
Okay,
out
so
there.
you were an OEM producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what? And sorry, what again? What different SKUs or product lines did you do?
Just basic
Rolled
sticking
joints.
to so different sizes of joints,
Yeah.
right? And then different sizes of jars or flower bags that you pick up, 3.5 gram, 7 gram, 14 gram. But we stuck to that dry flower processing
Okay.
because that's where we It was easier to get
Oh, I
into.
see.
It was easier to.
So you literally buy the wet leaves, whatever, the plants pulled out of the ground, and you
Mhm.
have to like clean them, cut them.
No,
No.
we get it packaged, ready to go. It's already been trimmed.
Oh, okay.
And then we take it and we either separate it and we weigh it and then put it into a packaging, and everything needs to be compliant with
Mhm.
the labeling, or we grind it down and we turn it into pre-rolls.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we get the finished product, then we have to convert that into a finished product for consumers. So that was our only step.
And did you, for the rolling side of things, was it like all machine done, or did you have like a bunch of dudes just kind of
yeah, it was. Well, it's like it's a machine. We had a
Rocket
box at the time, which is like a vibrating machine that you have all these cones that you drop in, 100 cones, and then you would pour the grinded cannabis over top
Wow.
and shake it to a certain point, and then
so that
bring it out
densifies
and weigh it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, you have a variation of 5%. Is it 5% on either side?
Yeah. So, if you have a half gram joint, you can have 5% variation on the down weight and the up weight.
Okay.
So you had to be precise, and this was the thing. So the speed was key in here, and just making sure that somebody that was actually pouring the cannabis in there was effective and efficient at doing it, so that hopefully the first round that you pull out was as close to the weight. Otherwise, you got to keep adding to it, and it would slow everything down.
Right.
But we quickly realized that our operations skills were just not there. We had an operation manager. She was great. But in order to actually scale, the only way we could scale was add more employees to that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we ended up bringing in these two guys from the company that we're with right now. And these guys had confectionery background and operations. And so we
Excellent.
brought them in and showed them our processes and asked them, what can we do to become more efficient here?
They laughed at you. They said, "You get out of here. Give us the keys."
Give us that's right. And so in the, and when we bought the company, in a sense, we were buying it to flip it, really.
Flip
Okay.
it really quick. Idea was, myself and John, we've been in the industry 10 years, that we could bring in people that are interested in looking to purchase, which we had great interest in the first year.
Mhm.
However, we learned very quickly the deals in cannabis industry are so hard to close. There's so many different variations on regulation, compliance, your working capital, there's operational stuff. There's so much to look at. It takes lawyers months to prepare a freaking agreement. And then you go back and forth. So that was a
So wait, how much is of that is just business versus new operators involving themselves in business versus regulatory restrictions?
I would say regulatory restrictions are about 40%.
Okay.
But then I would say another 40% is the new people that are coming in that
So
have.
they're not sure. They've got some money because they're from some other industry
Yeah,
and they want to invest. They're investors, but they're actually active investors for the first time.
that's it.
Okay.
The idea there is good. You invest money, you get involved, you spend it properly, right? But people that have no idea running an operation, they could cost a lot of money very, very quick, right? One simple mistake could shut you down for months, right? That's where the issue with the industry in generality is, because not every operator is a good operator. There's very few handful of companies that are actually fantastic, and they're making money. Like, they're legit profitable companies that we don't hear about in cannabis industry.
What happened then?
So we sold the company.
Okay.
We had one of our clients that purchased the company, and it took us probably about a year and a bit. Like we had
Just to close the deal.
Well, yeah, they kind of dragged us along a little bit here and there, and they had come to us, I think in January it probably was, and said, "Oh yeah, we're going to buy the company," and number of factors slowed things down, and so it took us probably about a year to close the deal.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
But it was
So
like
you were operational and you were in
it was
business, so-
operational. It was a great learning experience, and then from there, then we moved over to Wellcann. We moved over to some operators that actually knew how to run the operations a lot more effective and efficiently than we were.
Yeah.
And we came on as the business development arm, which was what we were good at, right? And so
what was Wellcann at that point as a company?
So Wellcann was a client of mine and Johnny, so we got them their license, so we knew what they were doing. Their idea was very innovative and unique product, which was THC chewing gum. Nobody has a chewing gum in
Chewing
Canada.
gum, yeah.
We have no traditional chewing gum manufacturer in Canada, let alone THC.
Mm-hmm.
We are the only company that actually manufactures CBD and THC gums in North America.
Wow.
Yeah, so, there's no equipment in Canada. So they have to brought everything from Europe. All of our gum base and everything is coming from Europe because nobody has anything available here, right? So that was their unique idea. And that was the only product that they had in mind when we got them their license. While we were doing the license, he's like, listen, you've been in the industry. Would you be our sales arm? And that was back in 2018 that we had this conversation.
Okay.
So once we sold the green gold and we were looking at like, what are we going to do next? We like the industry. We want to stick around.
Right.
Wellcann came up again, like, let's go have a chat with them. And they were great. Like, listen, we know what our lane is. We are operators.
Yeah.
We optimize our processes. That's
Yeah.
what we're good at. We don't want to do sales. That's your job. You guys know everybody. Go get business, right? So finding a partner who knows their lane very clear, that's where we're finding success this time around because not a single partner crosses over into anybody else's lane,
Yeah, I mean, in any business, that's difficult, right? Is to try and like move from that kind of we're doing everything owner operator kind of approach
Yeah.
Right.
to like really getting niche down,
Yeah.
niche down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to get away from just co-packing, and we decided, okay, we're going to start launching brands. So we had a guy by the name of Mike as well, and he had owned a bunch of dispensaries and had sold them and wanted to.
When you say dispensary, you mean like
he owned I think
Legal.
four
legal? Yeah. Thanks for the
Four,
clarification.
he had like 4 Tokyo Smokes that he had owned.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
and-
even know those were franchises.
Yeah.
I thought those were all
Initially they
corporate
were
stores.
No. Initially, when they first came into Ontario from BC, they were a corporate store. But as soon as they opened up the retail channel, they were initially franchised. Now
So when
that
it was a coffee shop, it was a franchise.
it was a coffee shop, it was a corporate store.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were only at 2 stores here back then, and I think they only had 4 in BC. But
Okay.
as soon as they got into the cannabis retail,
Yeah.
they franchised it.
Man.
The dispensary model, it was, when it first came out with the first 25 licenses, people were making millions, right? I remember
Yeah.
someone saying, we were doing $100,000 a day. Everybody saw that and everybody jumped in, and then the Ontario regulation said, we're going to just open up to everybody. And, didn't put any restrictions on how close you needed to be to another dispensary. And so all of a sudden we went from 25 locations to 1,500 locations
So,
in freaking Ontario.
Let's spell that out a little bit for our people out of province and out of country.
yeah.
In Canada, there was this race to legalization. Then all of a sudden, 2017 maybe?
2018 October.
Okay. Then all of a sudden, people start, like you said, in Ontario, there was a lottery system which you applied to, and then you got awarded your license. And there was, like you said, 25 original?
25
initially.
original.
And that's across the whole province. We
That's
got a
right.
big province.
Yeah.
And so there was this appetite from the consumer's side to purchase at retail, and there was an undersupply.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they open it up, and the pandemic hits. And you have all of these like retail locations that were like had gone belly up, and half of the city in Toronto at least was like dead retail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So perhaps impetus for people to say, okay, great, let's sell weed, and then down at least Queen Street, a street just not far from here, for like, for people that are out of the city, this is like a major east-west artery, typically old school retail, funky shops, fashion, cosmetics, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly all became weed, like every single store.
Yeah.
And it was like
ridiculous.
100 weed stores in a row.
You could get stoned anywhere you wanted on the street at any time.
Yeah,
and just turn around and
exactly.
you'd see a new dispensary pop up.
Yeah.
And so, it was great in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it turned pretty bad that dispensaries were losing money as opposed to making money.
Yep.
And now I think we're at the point where, a lot of dispensaries have shut down, and the strong are sticking around, and you've got bigger chains that have kind of merged together, and so it's still it looks like a struggling business for a lot of people, and I think
Well, let's break down that business model
Yeah.
for a second, okay? Let's do the napkin math on it.
Mhm.
So if I open a dispensary, obviously I have my fixed cost for operations as if it's a coffee shop,
Mhm.
whatever it is, labor, I've got my utilities, I've got my rent,
Yeah.
all that stuff, right? So let's say running cost for 1,000 square foot on the cheap is, let's call it even as low as 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
Leave aside my CapEx, which is my build out cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm taking over an old whatever shop. I'm just selling weed in it and I'm painting it, you know?
Well, let's not forget the inventory purchase, initial
Okay.
inventory purchase. That's a big chunk.
Okay, so let's for again people that don't know how this works, because it's a regulated industry with this weird OCS thing, the Ontario Cannabis Store.
Yeah.
So provincially owned body
Yeah.
that acts as the single first purchaser of product to then redistribute to end customers.
Yes, just like LCBO.
And they have their markup on the product.
Massive markup,
Yeah.
yes.
Massive markup.
Massive markup. So they mark up minimum 23% from what they pay us and what they sell to the retailer. So they're already
Minimum,
making
yeah.
that
It's
23%.
normally I would like 25 to 30% right off the bat for the distribution.
So
Yeah.
even the end retailer who's now opened up their shop that's costing them $10,000 a month minimum,
Mm-hmm.
they have to pay a premium on the product that they're buying to sell to customer. And that
Yes.
same customer, am I correct in saying, can buy online from the supplier
Yes.
and save that 23%?
Well, no, what happens is the OCS marks it up to the dispensaries and
And
then
to
they
the-
mark it up to their own online store as well.
Okay.
But yeah, there's
But the
depending
same
on
percentage?
More.
Okay.
Because
So they're giving an advantage to retailers,
they're
even though they're
just
marking up.
trying to, that,
Yeah.
hey, we can come close to what you guys sell at your store, that we're not going to undercut you by $5,
Okay.
because they were taking a lot of the chunk out of it.
So
the
as
business.
people, as end customers are not too fussed, let's say, with, especially if they're repeat regular buyers, with walking to a store and, wasted time and all that drama of buying at retail, and they want the convenience of online, how do retailers compete with OCS for online purchase?
Well, yeah, initially you couldn't do the online purchase. That actually happened that you could actually buy it from the actual dispensaries and have it shipped to you about halfway, I think, through the pandemic.
Yeah.
So originally
Does
it was
Uber
only,
delivery weed?
and now it does. Yes.
Uber delivers weed.
It
Yes.
does now
In
And-
Ontario,
Yeah,
yes.
and I don't know how many locations are doing it, but when
Wow.
when I
Hamilton, we know for sure
right,
they have
and
three or
then they've
four.
got, and I've ordered it in Etobicoke and Toronto, so the convenience is definitely there.
Yeah.
But yeah, at one point in time, OCS was the only one that could actually order weed to your house.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the branding piece, okay? And also for the customer model or the retailer model that we kind of like paused on, I think what we established is that there's startup costs, then there's your fixed
Inventory
monthly costs,
costs,
inventory
yeah.
costs. I guess what I was getting towards is what's the actual room for margin in that business model? Because do you have to sell? How do you sell? Okay, I guess the per unit cost is going to be about $10 that you're selling. Let's say a joint.
It all depends on
Depends on
you're
what
looking at.
format
Yeah.
of cannabis you're taking, right? So
What's your average purchase price? do
But
you
let's
think at
just
retail?
say, let's just say we sell to the OCS for $10. Then they mark it up another 25%, right?
Mhm.
So what is that?
$12.50.
$12.50. And then the retailer's probably marking it up between 30
30
to
to 50.
50%, depending on what the product is and what store you're in and what the brand is that they're putting out there. So
Yeah.
it's probably between the 30 to 50% is what the average is for the dispensaries to make on the product that they've purchased from the OCS.
So they're in a volume business at retail. Like they
Oh,
need to sell
yes,
to
they
earn
need
that
to, man.
margin.
Yeah. And especially if somebody doesn't own the property and there's lease and rent on it, then you need to be selling a lot. And that's where retail is tricky, because if you go into any dispensary, 90% of the products are exactly the same.
Yeah, and at the same time, I've been into a couple, and I'm always shocked with how the retail experience is limited to interior design.
That's it.
And I think is that a regulatory restriction?
is.
I can't have an espresso bar weed shop.
That's right.
You can't
do it.
even have a window without a covering to open a retail store for
So you're
cannabis.
selling to the street, but no one from the street can see what you're selling,
Exactly.
which is antithetical to the retail experience.
Exactly.
Are you allowed to have, if nothing else, if not consumption on spot, like a place for people to sit and read magazines?
You could, but again, is there ROI on it? You're going to have to add an additional 500 square foot that you will not get paid on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just people sitting there. And if any consumer isn't the right consumer for you, it could drive away customers. That's what
Because I haven't seen the Genius bar for weed. I haven't seen someone take that Apple model where you're not you might go and look at the product, like in an Apple store, it's a showroom, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a warehouse in the back. It's
Mhm.
not really that like old school retail where everything's stocked on the shelf and you take one anymore, except for accessories.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anyone do that with
Well, you
cannabis.
can't really touch the cannabis until you've bought it. So
Right.
you're really hoping that the brand has put some good product in there for the most part, and
Yeah.
relying on your the brand equity or the
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What latitude do brands have to build equity?
You know what? I can say this in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
In the medical, and then last 5 years almost in recreational. I don't think there's a single brand that has captured loyalty of the consumers.
There's so
Not a
many
single
products
brand.
out there too.
There's thousands and thousands
Yeah.
of SKUs on the same category, right? So, which is a good and a bad thing.
Mhm.
Bad thing is we've spent millions and billions, and I mean, Canopy and Aurora and Tilray have burned like $30 billion altogether, right? And
Ridiculous.
nobody can say what Canopy has in terms of brands,
Right.
right? Nobody knows how many brands they got. Aurora, they just launched a brand new brand. So again, nobody has a brand loyalty. So when we were looking at brands ourselves, like what would connect? I think all the 70s and 80s puns on the weed and marijuana has been taken. You know, all the Tommy Chongs and they were all gone. All the celebrities have come in and failed. So for us, we learn from other people's mistake. We know, okay, there's no brand loyalty.
Right.
It's all about the names. It's all about the looks, something that connects, right?
Yeah.
So Dom Jackson brand, when that was our first brand.
Dom Jackson.
Dom Jackson.
He's got the purple gas
Gas.
mask is what his logo is.
But would buyers know him before
Well,
the purchase?
no.
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 They
This
just
is the
saw-
guy that owned the 4 Tokyo Smokes that decided to get into the space, and he was our first client as a brand coming in.
So it was literally like a graphic design exercise.
pretty much, yeah.
And the product
And
choosing
finding
exercise.
and
right?
really it comes down to what we're putting in the bag.
It's like
How good
thumbnails
is
on
that?
YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, that's what it's become. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you make that purchase if everything looks the same and you
even
can't smell it, taste it?
Right.
Everything's just on your computer screen to make a decision out of, right? So what we learned from Dom Jackson being launched into the market is people didn't know the company name, but they recognized the logo.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
They're like, oh shit, oh, you're the gas guy. And people are stopping him in the street when he wears his merch, right?
Oh, really?
That's where we're like, okay. It's the
Wait, so is his name the brand?
No, Dom Jackson is just a
That's not his
made up fictitious
Okay.
guy that rolls around looking for good weed, you know.
yeah.
But this, because of that,
Yeah.
the bud tenders at these dispensaries are our biggest sales arm in a sense. So,
right.
we are able to sample to the industry. So, we'll set up events. Sometimes we'll bring them to our grow facility. We'll show them, how we're growing, what the strains are, get them to sample it, and then hope that they're going to relay that information to a cannabis user that comes in looking for a specific product.
Who
product.
are bud tenders?
They're the bartenders. They're the people recommending, hey, this is a new cool product that I've tried. You should try it type thing.
So they're the people at the counter when you go into
That's
a
right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
That's who you're going to go to as a consumer, especially a new consumer, and probably ask
interesting,
for their
though?
advice.
They're okay, and I get this, and I don't want to be like, it's kind of interesting because it's just like your barista at an espresso bar, right? You go to a third wave espresso shop and you ask them about a bean, and they're going to tell you all this crazy stuff about where that bean came from.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not to say that they're earning like $150,000 to be specialized knowledge, right? It's not tied to a salary situation.
No.
Right.
However, typically with baristas, you're thinking they're going to be very passionate about coffee to be able to share that knowledge, have that knowledge, be interested in acquiring that knowledge to share it.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of interest drives their efficacy in the job. Is that the same thing with bud tenders? They really
absolutely, man.
care about
Yeah.
weed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
most of them do.
I would say the whole industry in cannabis, like when you look at people, the passion
Mm-hmm.
is unbelievable. I've never seen this type of passion. Like nutraceuticals, natural health product industry had similar passion because everybody's learning from their personal experience and trying to create a product that could solve a lot of the issues.
Mm-hmm. You're
Can-
talking about
can-
like creatine and stuff.
Could be anything. It could be mushroom teas, could be chaga mushroom
Sure,
tea.
sure.
Like it's great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people learn from their mistakes. Like I know chaga teas, we got a lot of NPNs for it because pregnant women, they don't want to have caffeine when they're, ovulating and all that, like,
Sure.
or when they're lactating, they want mushroom teas. It
Yeah.
works well for them, right?
Mhm.
All of those things coming from personal stuff. You see that in cannabis as well. So supposed to be a lot of knowledge and care about products that you recommend.
Mhm.
What we are finding, there's a lot of turnover on the retail. So the bud tenders that you really want, just cycling very, very quick.
But are they moving between
Yeah.
different
Yeah,
retailers?
they're going from
Or
different
they're just
retailers, or
interested
they're
in it
just
for 6
coming
months?
into the market, realizing it's not what they're looking for, and they get out.
Yeah.
And the other issue, especially here in Ontario, is there's 5,000. OCS wants to put 5,000 products on the shelf. I think last 3-4 months ago it was at 3,000, and they're trying to push it up to 2,000.
Why
So
are they trying to diversify the
I think
product
they're
mix?
just trying to make the experience for the actual consumer to be able to get as much product as they want.
Because a little while ago, I was hearing this maybe from you guys, but like this story of also supply being a problem from the brands that are stocked, like
Yeah.
brands not being able to, or product companies not being able to supply enough product to the OCS.
Mm.
And then also
some
consistency
cases, yep.
issues. So the
Yes.
consumer gets even more frazzled with what's available. What do they actually want to rely on?
Right.
What
That
can
is
they
it.
rely on?
That's it. So you, again, there's 5,000 SKUs and there are like 800 new brands because of that reason. Companies bring out a brand, they fail at it miserably, they get bad reviews, and they just change the name in the new listing process, which is 3 months down the line, and they just come right back up again with something else, right? But it's the same shit products.
Yeah.
That's where consumers are like, they don't know what to follow. They don't know what to buy, right? So I think when we were choosing to create our brands, I think we finally sort of agreed that, we're not going to showcase the growing side of it. Means nothing to the consumer.
Right.
All they want is that when they open the jar, it's a good product that they enjoy and they get happy with.
Right.
So our focus with most of our brands is consumer side, which isn't really allowed. So it's more of the education, the communication. How are we going to tell our story better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and we're obviously making sure that the grower and the input material that we're buying is at a highest level as possible. We just do craft cannabis as well,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
craft cannabis being like small. Typically, it's about 1,000 square foot room, all indoor, and you're getting really good strains from breeders that have been doing this for a long time,
Hmm.
and so. Yeah, though we focus on the end consumer from a marketing standpoint, we got to make sure that the product that we're putting into the actual flower package or pre-roll is premium,
Yeah.
and it's priced properly as well.
Right.
Like that's one of the biggest factors in cannabis is like if you overprice by $1 or $2, the velocity of the sale decreases significantly.
Significantly. And if your product isn't consistent, then you can basically forget that your brand's going to survive more than 6-7 months.
Right. And
So-
right now, the biggest driver, or up until maybe the last couple of months, THC has been the biggest driver. So
What do you mean?
customers walk in and they're
Yeah.
like, give me the highest THC product for
no.
the lowest price. So, then now all of a sudden,
That's a whole different consumer, profile than
Right.
like the recreational. I want to try something that's a little bit strawberry flavored. Like,
That's
Yeah.
it, right? And I guess I blame, in the sense, OCS or other provincial bodies that are purchasing or bringing these new SKUs into the market to be pushing that agenda, in the sense that you could bring in 14% THC product, OCS has full say on it, consumers see it, they might buy it, but they only see the higher THC product. So that's what they're sort of training the market to ask for, right?
well, okay. So on that note, it's very interesting. I've been confused a little bit about this. How come we're not seeing, with legalization now being 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
right, in the rear
Yeah.
view,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't seen any kind of provincial led or federal led education around this product.
They've just started. OCS
Okay.
just started to. I've seen like 1 or 2 outdoor advertisements talking about.
Yeah.
I guess
Get to know cannabis.
Yeah,
that's their
that's-
campaign right now.
Because it's been treated almost similarly like the rollout in Ontario to liquor, right? So it's kind of like you don't know it until you learn about it in your own way.
Yeah.
And there's this weird kind of like stigma about it culturally or historically. So it's not part of like we'll legalize this thing, but we're not going to really talk about it. It becomes this biased, stigmatic
Yeah.
consumption pattern.
And because of that, the gray market, black market, whatever you want to call it, has
Right?
thrived
Yeah,
because they're out there advertising it all over the place.
right.
So, and you know, if you advertise it as a regulated brand, you're getting your wrist strap,
Yeah, there's
slap on the wrist.
unfair competition
Exactly.
from the black market who have found ways to be like literally
More-
retail. Like here
yeah.
in Toronto, for our non-Toronto people listening to this, watching this, we have stores across the city that I've seen that are, they say Mississaugas of the Credit, which is a community of people that were here as First Nations, in this region, saying we're exercising our sovereign right,
Yeah.
and they're selling weed. And I don't know where that weed comes from, but it's definitely cheaper than probably what you'd see. And they have discounts in there that, it's like, hey, it's Weed Wednesday, it's like 40% off.
Yeah.
And they got DJs on the street, pumping
Right.
tunes. And it's like, how do you compete with that if you're like this,
It's hard, man.
brand on an online e-com
Yeah.
site run by the government?
It really is hard, man. And again, they're exercising their rights. They can see it. They grow outdoors. They have enough, land to grow this on, which they utilize. So you can buy a lot of cheap product, those native reserves for sure. What I see though, I think good products do sell well. Like
Mhm.
Carmel, I'll say, is one brand that blows it out. Like we're looking at their freaking numbers in Ontario for the year, and they're already past 35 mil.
So this is a really good product that people actually can trust and believe in.
They
and
can
blah, blah, blah.
trust it. The consistency has been there. Now, is the quality same that it was the first time? No, it's not. Of course, it's gone downhill massively. However, still delights the consumer at the same price level, at the same consistency level. That tells us people don't really care about, at least in my opinion, those novel, new, innovative products with, some flavor profile, or, you have a gassy strain, but I'll throw in some strawberry flavor in it. That doesn't work. Cannabis, again, is more ritualistic
Right.
experience of consuming cannabis.
Yeah.
Like if I like my pre-rolls the way I roll it, I wouldn't smoke a pre-roll. I'm going to grind it myself, right? That's the ritual of it. I think most people are going to go back to that basic stuff.
But now you mentioned gum, and let's talk about this kind of like alternate kind of delivery mechanisms, confections and stuff like chew gummies
Yeah.
and gums and drinks like sodas and stuff.
Yeah.
Are they selling relative to weed to smoke?
Ooh, no, not even close. Like they're a small fragment of the
Beverage
the
section is under 2% of the overall market.
edibles.
Wow.
Is what, maybe 10?
No,
not
no,
even.
no,
Well, again,
7 maybe.
the black market thrives in the edibles
Okay.
because of the amount of THC that you can put into an actual package. Here in Ontario, you can only put 10 milligrams per package. So,
Mhm.
and you can go around and buy gray market edibles.
500 milligrams,
Yeah,
1,000
ridiculous,
milligrams,
like,
You take
wow.
a little bite, you're stoned for days, but you
You're
take
stoned for days.
Exactly.
Get stoned for a week.
and you buy the legal
Wow.
legal product that is edible is 10 milligrams. And if your digestive system, if your absorption rate in your freaking digestive system isn't good, you're not going to feel anything.
Yeah. And it costs more.
I don't touch edibles. It does nothing for me.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I don't like drinks either.
Yeah.
He experiments. I'm a flower guy, man. I stick to my pre-rolls and flower. I don't even
So the
try
bulk,
anything.
you're telling me that the bulk of the industry is
70% is pre-rolls and flour,
70% is people smoking weed.
smoking weed. Yeah. And they might be smoking it through a bong, through a pipe, through a
Like
you know,
dryer,
pre-roll
vape
or
type thing,
vapes or like a dry
Yeah.
vape, not like the typical
Cart.
oil shit vape there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for myself, I prefer smoking weed over everything, because if I do an edible, it kind of like, I don't know, I feel a
You're
little-
high without the cause.
Well,
you know?
it's
You don't know
it's
when
the
you're gonna
different
get
high,
high.
though. It's a different high. You don't know when you're gonna get high.
Yeah.
You don't know how it's gonna hit you, and then it's like a more of a lethargic feeling for
Mhm.
myself.
Does make you tired. That there is something with that consumption format that doesn't give you that euphoric feel that most people want from cannabis.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very one trick pony once you get into these beverages and edibles.
But see, again, this side of the education on the customer, new customer profiling or when they walk into a store for the first time and there's all the stigma, they're not going to ask necessarily all these questions
Right.
from your bud
Yeah.
tender.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to go, if you're just a regular consumer, you're going to think, oh, I'll just grab it out of a drink.
Right.
And if it's just
If you
made
don't
with,
like it,
well,
or it doesn't do
and
anything,
that's
you're
it.
kinda
Or
like, okay,
like,
that's it.
I'm
not
done with
trying.
yeah, exactly.
like
right?
distillate, which is like, pure THC in a sense. For myself, it kind of just gives me this like airy, almost stupid feeling of a high. Like I just don't enjoy it. So
Right.
if that's your first time and you go out and you try a beverage and you feel like that, you're never going to come back and try it again
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah, so cannabis to me, if it's you isolate those compounds like CBD, THC, and all the other ones that they have these days.
Mhm.
The moment you isolate, you're killing the cannabis the way you know it. Then you're just going after that API, which is active pharmaceutical ingredient in a sense, where you take that one pill that does that one trick.
Right.
Right. I think cannabis, they forgot it, is supposed to give you that overall euphoric feel.
Entourage effect.
Yeah, entourage effect, right? And you don't get
Interesting.
those with the edibles right now. Hopefully it changes,
Mhm.
right? There's good companies doing good R&D on the input materials that will have that euphoric feel to it, but we're not there yet. I think US
So
has
it's
that
it's
better.
a byproduct of the combustion process, is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. The byproduct of the combustion process has that entourage effect that you're not just getting the THC, you're getting all the minor cannabinoids in there, and
And the
because of that,
essential oils.
and the terpenes. Like right
Mhm.
now, terpenes are a big factor in how people purchase, because certain terpenes give you certain effects.
Yeah.
And so you can to simplify things, you've got indica and sativa. Sativa being more of a head high, indica being more of a body high. But really what it comes down is what terpenes are in that actual cannabis product is what's going to give
Yeah.
the effects of how you feel.
And terpenes basically is just essential oils. So, when you buy those essential oils, when you're sniffing, that's exact same oils that you have cannabis plants. It's just when you combust it with THC and other cannabinoids
They have an
involved with
effect.
it, that's where the effect is, right?
Okay, we got just a few more minutes left. Is your farmer here?
I don't know. Hey, where is he?
Where is he?
and just to give you some background on
Yeah.
Darryl, Darryl's been growing, I think, since he's 15
15
years old. He's been growing for 20 some odd years.
Yeah, this is year 20 now.
20. And
Yeah.
you started at what age?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us about that.
Yeah. So Darryl, okay, so as a grower, you were interested in the stuff when you were a teenager?
Yeah, honestly, it all started with me wanting to grow my own stuff because, at 15, you didn't have the disposable income you did as you do now. And
Sure.
the only way to get it was to grow it, really, and that's kind of how my passion.
So that's back when weed was illegal.
Yes.
Okay.
So
you
yeah.
went legit then in the last few years.
I did the last couple of years. I made the transition over to the legal space, and but before that, it was a gray area. It was a medical license, which
Oh, okay.
so it started in the completely, I guess, illegal at the time, and then they had this program called the MMAR program. It was a medical license that they gave people who had, I guess, needed a medical license in order to obtain cannabis for medical use.
Mhm.
So there was a doctor at the time who you could kind of just go see, and he'd write you the prescription for it, and you'd send your application to Health Canada, and they would give you a license to grow your own plants. So that's kind of how it all started.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of our medical program in Canada back in 2002.
Yeah. So over the years, it kind of got abused, and they changed the program. It went from the MMAR to I think it was
ACMPR.
well, now it's the ACMPR, but
MMPR.
MMPR, which was
Yeah.
in between.
Okay.
But I still have I've been grandfathered my original license. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure.
So as a farmer, why this particular plant?
It's it was also
Do
a
you grow
very
tomatoes and stuff also?
I do have a home garden. Yeah, we grow vegetables and stuff, but it was more the financial aspect there was more to it, so it was lucrative. That
Mhm.
was a big thing for it. So yeah, that's kind of how
And before you walked in the room, these guys were telling me what a beautiful facility you have.
yeah, so Mill Creek is a really nice facility. Phil designed this facility. I had it built a couple years ago. I came on board with them when they first got licensed to help them ramp up and scale production. And yeah, it's a beautiful facility. Probably one of the, I mean, it is the best facility I've ever seen.
It really is. Like
I have seen in the industry over the last 10 years over 120, 130 facilities. I haven't seen as good of a facility in Canada.
Now, when you say that, you mean, okay, in terms of like the means of production being excellent, but also I'm going on a ledge here. When you go to a vineyard to taste wine, is that experience there, like the tasting room? Can you even do that in this
We
industry?
have licenses that will allow you to do it. I don't know if Mill Creek has that right now.
No, so we don't have our I guess R&D
consumption,
license, consumption license, not at least yet.
Okay.
But no, the facility itself, beautiful facility. It used to be an equestrian farm, and then it got transformed into this state-of-the-art facility. Beautiful facility. Everything's redundant in the facility. Super well designed. It's like the Ferrari of facilities, you know.
Yeah,
So,
you've got AI. Like they've got AI running in there that allows them to be able to be on their cell phone and, see that the heat might go up to a certain extent, or you can do most of the stuff from a remote
It's
setting,
a
Exactly.
correct?
controlled production environment. That's
exactly.
inside, indoor?
Indoor, yes.
Interesting. So you take an equestrian farm and build out an indoor production facility because of the size of the land, I guess, and then also the access to utilities.
Exactly.
That's fascinating because, we've had on a previous episode of this show, we've had someone who does like nutrient dense, cropping, all indoor, all AI driven. There's like one person per 10,000 square foot of indoor space kind of thing.
Yeah.
To manage this, and the product quality is phenomenal. And even the way that they had their production facility set up is the plants, once mature, kind of exit the facility on a conveyor belt
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen those before.
to be like packaged and distributed, all
All-
automated.
Oh, the only difference there would be we cannot do that with cannabis because the moment we do fully automated stuff, it's not a craft cannabis anymore. So that you get a different designation.
Okay.
That's why we like to touch.
Sure.
So most of our stuff is handmade, hand packaged type thing, right? So we want to keep that craft designation.
So how much production are you involved with? Like, how big is this facility?
So the facility itself is 50,000 square feet. We have 9 flowering rooms there, just under 1,000 square feet each room. So it's a really small batch craft. A lot of love goes into the product. The plants are very well taken care of. There's a very intimate relationship we kind of have with the plants over
Do you
there.
play music in the?
No, we don't
No?
play music. But it's they get a lot of attention. It's I know it's a lot of people think they see it in the movies and stuff. It's people like to play music for the plants. We haven't got to that part yet.
we do have a lot of growers in Canada that do that, by the way. Yeah.
Is it a profitable venture? And at what point, what size does it become profitable? If someone listening or watching this is thinking about getting into the industry from the grower side, especially with automation and this kind of like easier production, if you have the capital investment to set up the facilities, like what's your minimum square footage to make it a profitable grow up?
I don't think there's a minimum. I mean, obviously, you need to scale it to a point where the crop sizes are interesting. It depends which avenue you want to take. Some people want to start a brand. Some people want to just be in the B2B space. Some people want to do export. So they have a license called the micro cultivation license, which gives you, I think it's like 2,152 square feet of canopy space. So that's pretty much the entry level, I would say, for somebody who wants to get into the space.
Say the number again.
2,152 square feet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your basement.
Yeah,
Pretty
wow.
much, yeah.
You're
What-
listening
what
to this in
can-
Brampton.
Yeah.
As long as it hits the compliance regulations. I don't think your basement's going to do that, but
Yeah, usually the property has to be zoned commercial in order to or agricultural to be allowed to have the license.
Yeah.
Okay, last couple questions. We're done for time here, but unfortunately, sorry to cut this short on the growing side. Vertical integration for new brand development. So if you guys are partnering up on the growing side, and obviously, Wellcann is doing the packaging and product stuff, and then you've got this great kind of like access to market,
Mhm.
business development side of the business. is that something that as a system works exclusively to offer opportunity to brands?
Honestly,
Yeah.
at this point, absolutely does. We've launched 3-4 brands that have the brand owners have no licenses. They have some inclination, some idea what the industry is, but they just want to try it out.
Sure.
So when we did it, we partner with the cultivators. We know where the product's coming from. We're packaging everything. We're sourcing all the supplies and everything.
But
So
even in terms of designing product from scratch, right?
yeah, absolutely. So this is basically, we got the money, we have an idea. Can you help us bring this to market? Now, it's the easiest way to get into the market, first of all.
Right.
Least capital intensive, asset light model. You want to come in, you can try it out for a little bit of money. If it does well, continue on. If it doesn't, you can actually leave.
So
right?
we've all heard of software as a service. This is a weed as a service.
Yeah,
WAS.
WAS. There you go.
Like it.
Awesome,
Yeah.
guys. Sorry to cut this short, but
No.
it was a brilliant time chatting with you about the whole 360 of the cannabis
Great to
market in
be here.
Canada. We'll definitely involve you in future conversations. I think there's a lot more to dig into. And of course, for our audience listening or watching, if you have any additional questions about these topics, feel free to share. There'll be links in the descriptions below wherever this is posted.
Yeah.
And we could do a follow-up session if our audience is interested in it.
That
Sound
sounds
good?
great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
You.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
All right. Rahul,
Cheers.
Mike,
Qasim.
wicked.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.